Welcome to the channel. We're talking about the second batch of Adventure Site Contest 2 entries. This is run by Ben Gibson of Coldlight Press. I'm one of the judges. We're going to look at 6 again today. There are 30, so kind of rattling through them in batches of 6. And we've got 6 today, as I say, which cover a variety of things, including one sci-fi one. Again, I read all these, and there were things that were respectable and interesting or well done in all of them, and actually the things I liked less. So we'll start this. This is the first one up. Foundry Ovens of the Bitter Paramore AD&D 1E levels 5 to 7 by Nick Alexander. And this is sort of this is grimmish. I'm not sure grim dark is the right word, though I guess it might be. But there's a lot of horror things. The ripe stink is a giveaway. A chamber of scorched brick with a 1 in 6 chance of Zabu Akimi torturing a captive. There's the body of an adventurer decomposing. Things like that. You know, it's a grim place which is run by this fire giant, and he's got some buddies, some kind of demented leprechaun, and they torch people in brick ovens. And there's also the ghost of a wizard, and so there's a kind of strong. That's a strong setup, and there's stuff like there are rumors. The rumors are probably not. Not the most compelling, but you don't necessarily need rumors. As a location, it's got a kind of a clear hook for the DM. Like, you can set up the thing you need to set up for that. If you're wanting to have it as a fixed location, or it can just be somewhere in the campaign. It is, for what it's worth, 19 rooms, and an outside section as well. Yeah, it's nice. It's interesting to see again. We've got this kind of mid-level range rather than low-level range. We've seen a couple of those so far already, and I think there's a higher proportion, I feel like, than was in the first contest. There's a lot of strong visuals. It's all clearly put together. I think I felt like the treasure for a 6th level adventure was, if not quite low, I'd need to. I know Black Razor has done most of these stats on his reviews on his blog, JB Black Razor, but the treasure feels either a tiny bit low or maybe a big. I think one thing is that it's fairly simple treasure. And it's heavily concentrated in a couple of places, and there's probably maybe the stylistic things for me there. Without doing the exact count, I can't say, but it feels a little light, and it's not super exciting. As I say, the aesthetics and stuff are strong. There is a random encounter, which is where you can meet some of these weird things, like you've got a dog who's a castrated, lobotomized paladin or something. I think my biggest objection here is that I wouldn't want to run it because I think it's gross. Like, I think the aesthetics are strongly and effectively done in a direction that I don't like. Some people are going to like that. It's not really Lamentations either. Maybe it's Lamentations adjacent. It's kind of hard to say. I did have some comparison in my head when I was reading it. That I was like, it reminds me of this. But you can see it's got this very strong aesthetic, and I think that's what you're most likely going to run it if you're into that. You're most likely going to be like, this is a reasonably done, without execution-wise, it's never obviously horrendously poor. It's it's never like, oh man, I like the idea, but this is rubbish. It's never that, but it probably never quite hits the kind of like, this is this fascinating room, or oh wow, this is this incredible piece of treasure, or whatever, or set of encounters. The biggest thing it has going for it is going to be that weird, nasty aesthetic. I guess Kingdom Death Monster or Dark Souls, but actually almost amped up from those there. But yeah. Anyway, that's what I thought of that. Galactic Fun Time. It's a Stars Without Numbers adventure site for 3rd to 5th level. So Stars Without Number is Adventure BX derivative, but obviously it's sci-fi, and some people use it as a traveller light like. I think that, which I suspect there are more problems with that if you're looking for the actual traveller experience than people realise, because there's some real differences there. But yes, it mentions, yep, it's to do with a entertainment centre. It's a sort of, I guess, I'm trying to think what it is. Not a theme park, but a sort of, yeah, like a museum or whatever, with a Build-A-Spider centre. And you could get genetic assembly living pet things. And you put it on a Tomb World, apparently, and it has the examples of spiders, and it gives you a description. It's all a bit messy, obviously, you can see, but it's fine. It's hard for me to judge, not being an SWN person. Um, it's very, I mean, given is it gold equals XP or equivalent? Is it treasure equals XP? Someone will have to tell me. If not, I'd say the point is the treasure is obviously not right. If it is, the treasure is much too low. I think it's got a really strong aesthetic. And I enjoyed that much. It's on the Fallout end of the there's like demented spider mutant and stuff like that, and you can play. There's webbed up corpses in adjacent chairs huddling each other. That's actually a very the more pathetic side of Fallout. There's you can play Pac-Man 3000 if you get the right game cards. You can find loads of worthless local currency. So yeah, it's something where what I would say is when I think I run Traveller, so I think, oh, could I convert this to Traveller? Yeah, I'm sure I could. And I guess the question is, would I want to? Would I want to run this in Traveller? And probably it's a vignette. It feels like a vignette, and possibly that's the thing, is it would work as something I'd drop in and be like, in a whole system, in a whole thing. I can just stick this on a world, and that could be a fun vignette. And I think that could work. I think beyond that, though, it's airy, and that is not quite a criticism. I think airy has its place, but I think it's a caveat. Is that it's not something I'm insanely compelled by. But this was more where, as I say, Nick's Foundry Ovens was not really my aesthetic. This certainly hit me more for that. This is Troll Market, I think it's called. That will it tell me? Adventure Site. It's called Adventure Site. Troll Market. There we go. I guess we'll call it. This is. Who's this by? Do we have credits? Do we have anything? I swear I worked out who this was by. We've got playtesters, which is good. Many of these have playtesters, by the way, which is also good. So yeah, if this is by you, then you're going to need to tell me who you are. It has a hook where Troll Market, a baby of a magic user, 3rd level, who presumably could come and help you because it's levels 1 to 3, wants her baby back. She made a deal for her firstborn but reneged. Or maybe that's why she can't go and get him. There's no obvious reward, so it's a weak hook for that. But the general idea that you need to go and get this baby, that's fine. There's an interesting thing where you get three 3-hour evening stays, and there's a way to be able to stay beyond closing time. I think if you read between the lines in another location where there's some gamblers who have special passes. But yeah, so it's a heist adventure, which I think it says here, AD&D heist adventure. And the principle here is you're not going in probably just to murder everyone. There's quite a lot of people, and enough of them are tough. There is a mind flayer. The octopus-headed humanoid who works with the clean-shaven dwarf who sells exotic pole arms like Bohemian ear spoons. There's there's stuff. There's a 5th level faun with panpipes of charm, sleep, fear. There's a fox who's reincarnated elf who's turned into a fox. There's guards who are again fighter 3. This is because there's a sub-location which is Lord Ryan's Manse. So yeah, I think this made me think of things like Neverwhere, things like Hellboy: The Golden Army. I don't remember anything like that in the graphic novels, so there probably is, but in the film, the elf market, the troll market, goblin market, of course, is the Rossetti term for it, isn't it? So yeah, there's something kind of nice going on there, and that's quite well achieved. It made me think actually as well of the nicest things about those planar compass zines that I reviewed, which have some real flaws, but have occasionally just like that such a strong aesthetic as a thing, an interaction. The player's calm and they're talking to these characters, and this is really strong and interesting, and can set up really interesting things. There's not loads of extra stuff necessarily to do, but there is some stuff to do, I should say. Like, hey, Nirax runs the tent, speaks through Gurthu. He will try to blackmail you if you try to suborn him. So there's an assumption you might try to suborn people, and but it won't dob you in if you go and if you kidnap a satyr, or again, Fox. That's just interesting. And he has some good goods. He brokers information, so you can get a map from him. And there's a couple other bits like that which you can kind of just leverage in your advantage, or which create complications, and which is super memorable in a good way, as in they are things that you will be like, we made these decisions, and we remember that. Yeah, there's some more rumours. And then the Manse is a small dungeon set up for the heist, which has, there's Crenshaw's, there's a couple of supporting characters, Magic User 2 and Fighter 5 in Elfin Chainmail. That's going to be unpleasant for your third level party. On his own, he could be a real pain. What's his hit points? Does he have an HD? Yeah, 29. He could be a real pain, especially if you catch him with the valet. But yeah, because you need to sneak in, you need to avoid this. You also have a Fighter 5, Magic User 5 in Lord Orion. And there's other guards around, and there's skeletons. So yeah, and Crenshaw, etc. One thing that is good, because it's a heist, is it does have a timetable. That knowing, and particularly where each of these characters are, and where if the Crenshaw are active with that character. Yeah, I liked this one, and I feel like I could use this. It's tough to fit into some of the milieu that I run now. It's easy to fit into Dolmenwood or something like that. It is AD&D rather than BX, but that's fine. I'd have to read it and think through it, and I think that's partly because unless heists, and this is quite a well-written heist, heists need to be exceptionally well-written, more than a normal dungeon with an order of battle and timetable, because they are hyper-interactive. I talked on Classic D&D Campaign about the issue of immersive sims as a successor to and an influence on D&D adventures. And I think here you see, you're like, I want a lot more stuff. And I know this is 3 pages maximum plus maps, but you can't, even though it's small, I still want loads more bits and pieces, even though it's got a bunch of stuff. But yeah, that was good. I like that. Put the Murnug, which was I don't know if anyone's seen the cover of the European LP version of this by Stussy and Stramash. It's very, very rare, and possibly cursed. But these are the liner notes, and this is a short adventure for 4 to 6 PCs at levels 5 to 8 for Labyrinth Lord. It uses a Dyson map, and this is meant to be near planar. Is the idea is that it's a temple which was set up to worship Ogremok, as in it's the front for cover for, and then some white dragons and an archmage came and have been causing trouble, and yeah, you can see a bunch of crazy stuff's happened. The pit sacking attracted the attention of Imix, the Fire Prince. So you're getting on the edge of this stuff, and that's nice again to be pushing players into that next zone, giving you an opportunity to be like, how do I give players opportunities to start thinking about and dealing with the planes? Bas Lasrak, the Efreet can turn up under very specific situations. So yeah, that's good. I think a lot of the places, a lot of the locations and stuff, there's decent little details here and there. And there's bits like, there's some abuse for by Bas Rak in an evil script, and you're tricked by the excrement. There's Ogremok. A room cavern full of columns. There's things that are good basics, good nuts and bolts stuff, and the actual image of these restrained dragons is quite strong. I'm not sure. I was going to say, you can free them. They've got lots of treasure. The treasure is actually okay, I think, though highly concentrated and generic. So what I mean is it's okay for number and amount, but it's not super exciting. There's a few things, like this an example. There's some bloodhawks in nests, and one has a red spinel and a purple amethyst, and the other has a slightly frilled jacinth. And gem treasure is a good variation, especially because it's lighter. So more of it can be carried because it's, 1 coin each or whatever per gem typically. I think it says it varies, but yeah, I generally run it at 1 coin unless it's a big gem, and I think that's pretty standard. So yeah, you can find some other stuff. There's the pit floor. If you keep digging, the large arm and leg are popping out. Both have been gnawed and pecked to glint to gold. There's some good stuff there. It's a +1 scimitar, 3,000 gold. That's less exciting because it's just a big bag of gold. And a potion of treasure finding. That's good. But obviously a big thing here is that there's a thing about these mephits are around, and there's these captured dragons, and if you release the older dragon, then the Efreet is definitely going to turn up. And Efreet, I mean, this is Labyrinth Lord, so I need to go and read, but like, your 7th level party versus an Efreet, even in Labyrinth Lord, sounds nasty. So yeah, it's something I don't quite feel like I know exactly how all these things are going to interact, partly because the edition is BX. But I think it's also... I'm trying to think what are players likely to do and how they're going to interact with it, and it feels a bit bitty, more even though it has a really strong theme that I like, and I think you can have a lot of fun with that. The final execution is maybe a tiny bit off in that direction. It just needs a bit more coherence. But yeah, I certainly liked some bits about that. The Herbalist's Son by Jacob72. A short 1 or 2 session adventure that probably works best with no elves in the party. This is BX. Basically, there's some bandits led by some werewolves. It's for 3 to 5 for BX. Again, 5th level party versus werewolves feels tough, though there's no reason, of course, why they couldn't, if the players are geared up already, then maybe it's going to be okay, or at least better. Yeah. A herbalist and his son have gone missing, and they're inside a tomb, inside a barrow, and there's some encounters that happen in there. It's because there's a portal to fairy, and that means there's some elves who might have come through, and there there's some sprites out for revenge, and yeah, this is fun. The giant toad is a prince. These encounters, by the way, I actually thought were very strong. This is one that definitely feels it's levels 3 to 5, so it's pretty flexible through the low to mid levels. I feel like this one struck me as something you could drop quite easily into a lot of locales, and which of the ones I've looked at so far, the Pit of Mernig, I think if you are, it depends what world you're running, because Foundry Ovens and Galactic Funtime require you to run a world that is like those things. Pit of Mernig and Troll Market. Troll Market is a tiny bit more specialised. Pit of Mernig, Herbalist Son, I think those two are both much more flexible for more vanilla contexts. And Pit of Mernig I like for the planar thing. Herbalist Son I like in that context, the vanilla side, because actually is incredibly strong in terms of the experience players are going to have of these encounters and these places. It's a little bit like Pit of Mernig. I'm not sure if here's the map, by the way. It's a decent map. It does some loopy-doopying, more or less chiefly round. I mean, there's technically 2 ways over the river, and around this obviously fairly central location, the Desecrated Elf Temple, which is where the bad guys stay. The werewolves are 15 and 17 HP, by the way, so they're not. If you're 5th level, they're not crazy. If you're 3rd level and you're not fully tooled, this might be very unpleasant. There is an elven tomb as well. You can see there's some decent stuff. This is for BX, so you're not getting XP for the treasure, for the magical treasure, you're getting it for the gold. But there's a scroll with a bunch of good stuff on it. Of course, if you're running AD&D, just give them the XP anyway for the magic. A suit of elf-sized chainmail +2. I assume we'd convert that to elfin mail. And silver dagger of elvish make with a sapphire blade. Well, that's a silver dagger. That is a nice drop, given that you might have to fight werewolves. Let's put it that way. There is a order of battle section. I would like this probably just for personal preference to be, and I don't always do this when writing up my own stuff, but separating out more of this information, like it's dense to read on the fly. But yeah, I think there's some good things here, some good coherence, but it's not the most cohesive set of rooms ever. There's some interactions, but not loads of stuff affects other stuff. That's a big thing. That's one thing with the Mephits in Pit and Murnig and stuff, is that one room does affect another or does create encounter opportunities. It's just that the rooms, in other senses, don't feel super connected. Here, you have probably a slightly more. It felt like, as I read it, it hung together, each room connected to the other intellectually better, but there weren't actually many interactions comparatively. The Wandering Monsters are very good. Both of those, I think, in your vanilla setting, you could put in fairly easily. And then finally, Grave Slugs, Cleft in the Crag, OD&D, 4th to 6th level. Which, that's something, again, it's a funny one. You're going to have to, even more than with BX, if you're converting it for AD&D, which is what I'm thinking when I look at it, I need to practically do that. You need to work out for both BX, but especially I think for OD&D, what the level is to the level. It's not actually going to be super far off that. But there are Ursasu who are like Bear Lamassu, so you're not actually going to send your 4th level party to do this, I think. The thing is, there's a Temple of Law, partly desecrated, inside which there is a powerful chaotic artifact. And you can go there, you can go to the planar pockets, and you can go and get that. So that'd be good, wouldn't it? Or maybe you don't want to do that. You're allowed to make a different decision. I think here the layout is all very clear. It's dense. There's lots of information. This is the grutziest of these. There are 15,000 words in here, kind of thing. There are the maps. Maps are well executed, by the way, and reasonably clear. Maybe the one thing about the layout is, and I think it's partly because I was having to track some of these sections. Maybe this is just stupid, tiny brain, but I just want those section titles to be bigger. But I think I was occasionally like, oh yeah, I need to go and look at the maps, and the maps are not super simple. They are clear, like you can see how one thing is meant to connect to another and stuff. Generally, but I was like, oh, I need to go and look. Okay, this is there and that's there. And because it's an interesting environment, I think I probably, because I like stuff being printed out, I'd probably benefit from this one if I was running it, printing it out. There's a few things that you can go up to on the same note as these Ursasu. There's also an Umber Hulk. Your 4th level party for AD&D is probably not going to incredibly enjoy this. As I say, you're going to have to adapt it. I'd say, yeah, make it slightly higher level. Yeah, you can. And there's there's 3 mummies in the Tomb of Founders. 40 large slugs. They don't actually do anything really, but there are giant slugs nearby. There is some really nice interactions between things, like there is where the giant slugs are who connect to the appearances of the large slugs. There's an inscription which warns you about a future room. There's lizardmen who are in part of the complex, but they're not kind of down into the lower temple works and the lizardmen caverns, which are these two, E and F. But D, which is the kind of chaos stuff, or rather, as in the chaos artifact is trapped, is separate, and that's actually fine. Like not everything has to be directly connected. Like, oh, you must go through the gauntlet to get there. It can be that this is doing this and this is doing this, and these are different areas, and there are different challenges in them. It provides a different kind of purpose to the adventure, if purpose is the word. Certainly a different kind of experience. The Prison of the Void, which is the final boss for the official thing, which is the Clutch of the Void, Crystal Ball, Staff Wizardry, is chaos focus. There was that's the point. There's the Guardian statues who are per OD&D Balrogs. And again, I'm not even sure. Like you up the level, I'm not even sure about that. You know, three Balors. What are you doing? I really like. So yes, maybe there's a sort of general balance and design thing here that I think even if you adjust level, you got a massive. Like remember the tribe of the series, Lizardmen. I mean, how far is this an experience of games with different expectations? How far do you actually need to just much more closely adapt certain OD&D conventions into your AD&D game if you're running this? It's harder for me to judge because of all that. But the Court of the Watcher, yeah, here essentially if you look at the pillar, you might vomit if you're neutral. If you're in chaos, you take 1d6 damage and you're permanently blinded. Or you are blessed for 30 days and a 2 in 6 chance that you become a werebear. That's fun, and that is not given you've had a couple of clues about it. You know, you've been told there's the inscription, there's tapestries, you know, gnarled and pitstone kind of crowned with an eye cast rays like the sun. You know, you can tell that possibly, and it's covered in tapestries, maybe something weird going on. It's maybe a bit harsh on the chaotic character where the players maybe haven't quite put 2 and 2 together. But I like that as there are reasons you can know this is dangerous or interesting. And it has really, basically, is that, you know, your lawful characters have a chance of becoming a werebear, and that's fun. I'm not sure if every single piece of this hangs together perfectly, but I think that it hangs together well, and it has a lot of variety, and it's interesting, and it's doing interesting things. Was going to add anything about there's Zephyr, the neutral warlock, who is he's gazed by a lich to get the artifact, basically, and he's friends with the giant slugs. The Lizardmen, I mean, there's Yellow Mold. There's a chieftain with a +3 spear and a ring of regeneration. And this is where a lot of the extra treasure is, more or less, along with the fact that Zephyr has a bunch of stuff. I think of Zathras now from Bab 5. But Zephyr and the Lizardmen have a bunch of treasure. So that's going to be where a lot of your bang for buck is going to come from if you deal with those. If you speedrun stuff, you won't necessarily get the information you might run into. So that's one thing. You kind of want to go off and explore stuff, partly to get more information, particularly from Zephyr, who can tell you about the artifact. Yeah, I think there's a lot of promise there. If you can leverage that into the game, that's one thing about having stuff like there's a chaotic artifact there. It suits not even your Conan groups, because Conan would not approve of chaotic artifacts being dragged out. But it suits your Conan-esque groups, your Fafhrd-esque groups, the idea that you're like, oh, we're going on a kind of strange and silly adventure, and crazy things are going to happen. And that includes, you know, a chaotic artifact we could go and get. It might suit certain kinds of fairly classic style games less well, because you're like, well, unless you set up, for instance, a rival party who you know are going to go and get it, and then you have to, you know, or you've got to beat them to it, or something. I don't know. Yeah. So again, all 6 of these have things that you can, I think, you can get your teeth into. I think maybe it's just my vanilla aesthetics going, but Pittermernig, Herbalist Sun, and Cleft in the Crag feel the most easily usable for me in what I'd want to do, and I think let's pick out one for just being easy to read. Pittermernig's not bad. Yeah, I think Pittermernig. Or one thing about foundry ovens is that I was going to say, yes, that's one thing. Troll Market has the timetable, which is good. Foundry Ovens is very clear in terms of being able to read through stuff, and the bolded text, the idea that you're getting key information that you can flash your eyes over. Yeah, so I think there's probably a couple of ones that are more immediately physically usable as well. Anyway, if just from your looking at this, which one appeals most to you? I guess tell me in the comments, and I will see you next time.